Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining and listening. I'm really excited to talk to you today about projects in Claude, specifically why they're important to use and how to get set up and start using projects. So, projects are a little bit different than just regular chatting. So, chats are better for more one off conversations. Yes, they can be ongoing conversations and you can build on them, but projects are fantastic because you can think of a project as like a little mini repository for one particular project or thing that you are trying to accomplish. And the reason that getting set up in projects rather than having an ongoing chat where you're continuously adding more and more things is the context window for chats. It's limited. And so the more you add, the smaller the context window gets because the chat is constantly having to go back and review that information and ingest that information, plus your prompts, plus this, plus that, plus the other thing. Whereas projects are slightly more self-contained, which then makes it easier for you to ensure that the information that you are getting when you are talking to Claude in a particular project pertains to that, and that you have all of the information that you need right there. And it just makes it a lot easier than constantly having to add files or update files, because in Claude Cowork in particular, which is what we're looking at right now, and it can automatically go into a folder that you have allowed it access to. So if you update that folder, it will update in Claude Cowork and within your project. So how do we actually get started on this? As you can see, I am in Cowork right now, and we go to projects. Now I have created an example project for us, but what I can do is I can go ahead and start a new one just so that you see how it is. Now, there are projects in chat. That's totally fine. You could start a project in chat and you can actually, it will say right here, you can start from scratch. You can import a project from chat over to Cowork, or you can use an existing folder. Now, what I highly recommend doing when you're creating a new project is using an existing folder. And what this means, especially in Cowork, is that you have put everything that you need into a particular folder. You can just put it on your desktop, and you give Claude permission to read and write in that folder. So again, what's great about this is if there are updates to said folder, it will know that. You don't have to like constantly being like, oh, like, did I add that PDF? Did I add this? Did I add that? Right? Instead, you can automatically get those updates just by adding from that to that folder. So I'm going to use an existing folder. So choose a folder and Claude will treat its files as project context, add instructions to help shape how Claude approaches the work. Claude will remember context across chats. So we'll get to the interface in just a second, but all the chats that you have within a particular project are Claude is using that context that you've given it. And with AI, context is the most important thing. So for you to be able to give it proper context, and then for you to be able to reference that context within every chat in that project, it just will get you much better results. It will be much more efficient for you and a lot less frustrating. So what I'm going to do is I have a sample project in here, and we're going to open it. So this is an existing folder. Let's just go to it really quickly. And in this folder, it's all dummy data. It's all fake data. But I wanted to give you an understanding of how my folder structure works. You'll have the project set up, and these are instructions for Claude to work within the project. So how Claude should work every single time you query and talk to it within this project. Now you also have the research artifacts. So this being the research brief, the transcript, synthesis, insights, stakeholder readouts, like any sort of like research artifacts that you have. You have outputs, so things that Claude actually creates. So what are the outputs from this particular project? And then the two things here that I always recommend is putting in templates. So what are templates? Templates are things that you have created that showcase Claude, like how you like to do things. So for instance, let's say that you have a research plan template. So you want it to follow a particular research plan template. Let's say you have a report template that you want it to follow. Let's say that you have a screener template that you want it to follow. Any sort of template that gives it context on like how you like things to be set up so that it can understand, okay, if I need to create a research plan from what this has given me, here is a template that I could pull from. And then finally, the last one is good examples. That's what I call it. And the way that I think about good examples, and the reason that this is so important in your file structure when you're using a project, is that good examples are human generated examples of things that you are proud of in the past. So this could include a good example of a research plan. So a research plan or two that you're really, really happy with, a report you're really happy with, an executive summary you're really happy with. It doesn't have to be about this particular project. It's just good human generated examples that give Claude the context of, okay, this is what this person is looking for in terms of output, right? So these are the kinds of examples that you would almost want Claude to mimic, right? So that could be, stakeholder messages as well, or affinity diagrams, or, you could also, if you wanted to, put in like articles or write-ups on how you do things. So like for you, what does an insight look like? And show it good examples of insights. And you could even break down how you write insights if you want to write that down, or if you have any like what I recommend that people use is like training documentation that they've used for stakeholders. It's almost great for Claude in a way. So that's kind of how I tend to set up my project-based folders for Claude. So you'll see here, we've connected that folder, and then there are instructions. So tell Claude how to work in this project. So giving Claude as much context as possible so that it knows how to work in a given project. Now, if you're not sure about how to do this, you can also ask Claude to produce instructions for you, and it will usually produce like an MD file for you. So you can have like suggested project instructions. So you are my user research assistant for this drop-off study. You give context of what the business is, what you're trying to do, what it has access to. Don't invent quotes or findings. Default to clear language. When I ask for synthesis, push past surface observations to the so what. I'll show you a little bit about skills as well, but that's a separate video. And then, so we can just put in things like this. Another thing that is important is what's in this project. So you can put in what is in this project and how it should pull from it. So for example, with this particular project, I would also write in what templates are. So I would say templates, please pull from these when making an artifact of what I like things to look like, something like that. So these are templates for you to use. So for Claude to use. And then I would put in good examples, and I would say these are examples of my past work that are very effective. Please pull from these when, again, creating artifacts so that you know what a good output looks like. So you can put all of that kind of context in, and then you would go ahead. You don't need to add files because all your files should be in the local folder. So I really highly recommend, before you connect the folder, or you can do it afterwards, it doesn't really matter, but you put all of your artifacts into a given folder. And then we'll go ahead and create the project. And you see here, there are the instructions, right? So the instructions that we put in here, the ability to edit those instructions, the context. So this is what you have given this particular project for context. So again, this is the folder. You have the ability to ask Claude to remember something specifically. So if you need it to remember something, it will save it here, and you will see the memory here. And then we will talk briefly about scheduled tasks, for instance.